Hello and welcome back to another video. As you can tell, this one is about my Fujifilm X-T4. I bought this camera a couple months ago because I was not enjoying using my Sony a7 III and I was missing the feeling of using my Fujifilm X Pro III. So I thought a good way to compromise between the performance of the a7 III and the feeling and just fun of the X Pro III was to get a Fujifilm X-T4. I bought mine secondhand from MPB and I can't lie, it is very battered, especially around the back just below the screen. There is a bunch of paint missing, but that doesn't bother me whatsoever. The camera works and it also helps me to create some work that I'm happy with, and that's all I need really. Anyway, now that I've owned the camera for a couple months and I've gotten some decent use with it, I thought it would make sense to make this first impressions video. This video would have been out a lot sooner, but since I've got this camera, I really haven't taken many photos or really done anything at all, as university has ended and I've taken a little break from creating. But I've had some relaxed use with this camera, making these videos and taking a few photos, so it gives me enough experience to make this first impressions video. And by no way is this a review of the Fujifilm X-T4, I just don't have enough use with it whatsoever. This is purely just me discussing some things that I like and some things that I dislike about the camera after using it for a limited amount of time. And the first thing that I will start off with is that classic Fujifilm handling. If you have used a Fujifilm camera before, then you know how nice they are to operate. From the dials to the menus, I just love how Fujifilm cameras work. And this camera is no different. I especially love how easy it is to switch from photo mode to video mode. It's just so seamless and it's unlike any camera that I've used. There's not really much more to say about this point, as I have said it in so many other videos about Fujifilm cameras. The only thing that I wanted to touch on was the seamless switching from photo to video, as that has been a unique experience with a Fujifilm camera that I've only had in this one, that is not in any other Fujifilm camera that I've used. But they all have the same sort of handling. It's just really nice, really simple, and rewarding to use and just feels good. They're just so unique with how they make you feel, and I just love how they look. Looking at this camera now, it is just gorgeous. Another great thing that I've noticed about this Fujifilm X-T4 is the Flipout screen. I used to own the Fujifilm X Pro III, and I absolutely loved its unique screen. I would love to own one again, but definitely not in the same way that I use this X-T4, specifically for video. Mainly because of the lack of flip-out screen on the X Pro III. Although the screen was really cool and really unique, it just wasn't very good for video, which is pretty much what I only used the camera for at that point in time. But the whole reason I switched from Fujifilm, my X Pro III, to my Sony, which is my a7 III, was the lack of video features. But one of the things that made me switch from Sony back to Fujifilm was because of the lack of flip-out screen on my a7 III. But now that I have this flip-out screen, it is so much easier to record these videos, as I don't have to move and get up and go behind the camera to check if my framing's right or anything. I used to actually click record, sit down, then get up and stop recording and check over the footage to see if my framing was right. And a lot of the time I ended up running over the record limit, which was a bit annoying as I couldn't tell, and I'd have to do another 5 minutes of recording just to make sure that I've actually recorded up to a certain point, which was just super annoying. But I don't have this problem anymore thanks to this flip-out screen. But another thing that I like about this flip-out screen on the Fujifilm X-T4 specifically is if I turn it around and put it away, it still reminisces that Fujifilm X Pro III experience, apart from with having, the little tiny mini screen that displays your film simulation. This flip out screen can be so flush with the body and look like there's not even meant to be a screen there, and I love the leather design on the back which matches the rest of the camera. It just looks so film-like and I just absolutely love it. So having this Fujifilm X-T4 is like having the video features that I wanted of the a7 III, but actually even better, and then also having the really cool film-like screen of the X Pro III, while also being, able to flip out and me see myself and make these videos a lot easier to record. It's just such a small part of this camera, just the flip out screen and it being flush to the body, but it's something that just brings me so much joy. Speaking of screens, the Viewfinder is so much better to use than the Sony a7 III. I knew how bad the Viewfinder was on the a7 III when I bought it, but I didn't think it would be that much of an issue. And to be fair, it wasn't that much of a problem for the first couple months using it, but as time went on, my eyes began to strain more and more when using the viewfinder. I could have just used the screen, which I did for a lot of the time, but I really like using viewfinders as I just find it like a more intimate and personal experience with the camera, which sounds stupid since it is just, you know, a machine, but it feels so much better to me using the viewfinder rather than a screen. Which is a weird thing to say, as one of the reasons I also got rid of my X Pro 3 was because I much preferred using the screen on that camera rather than the viewfinder. But now my opinion has just completely changed and done a 180, and I don't know why. But anyway, now that I have the X-T4, eye strain is just not a problem whatsoever. And I can now take photos without having eye fatigue, which is something that I'd never thought I'd struggle with until I got my Sony a7 III. I can now also review images using the viewfinder, which I just find so much better than using the screen. I just find it so much better to like see details and stuff when using the viewfinder, as you know, it's just like completely black, and then your image, I just find it so much better to view your images that way. Which is something that I couldn't do with the Sony a7 III, as the quality was just that low and you couldn't like determine what was actually in the photo and what was just pixels. It was really bad. But yeah, the viewfinder on this camera is just so much better and I absolutely love it. Something else that also really surprised me about the camera was how much I actually used the shutter speed and ISO dials. On my X Pro 3, I would rarely use the dials as I absolutely hated how the ISO dial worked, so instead I just used the little scroll wheels on the front and back of the camera. However, with this camera, I pretty much exclusively use the dials, and I'm not entirely sure why. But it just makes using the camera that much more enjoyable and that much more personal, and I really wish I used the X Pro 3 this way, as I may have used it more and more if I'd done it that way. To be fair, one of the reasons why I may have started doing this was because I've completely stopped shooting film, and it sort of brings back that tactile feeling of using a camera when using these dials. And I think the only negative thing that I can say about this camera after using it for 2 months is that the little dial where you switch between like in single shooting, high speed shooting, like bracketing and all those other different shooting styles is a bit too easy to move. Multiple times I have gone to take a photo just for my camera to take 3 separate photos and then process them for a few seconds when I actually just wanted to take one photo but it was accidentally in bracketing mode. I wouldn't be surprised if this is just because my camera is a bit battered, as I can definitely tell by this camera, you know, it's had, you know, a long history of being used. Or, you know, if it is just a feature that it's just kind of easy to move the dial, then that is just a ridiculously bad flaw of the X-T4. It would be so much better if it had the same amount of resistance as the shutter speed dial or the ISO dial or even the exposure compensation dial, rather than, you know, being able to move it super easily. But yeah, those are some things that I've noticed and written down over time after using the Fujifilm X-T4 for 2 months. As I mentioned before, I haven't really had that much use of this camera, and I'd really like to change that as I really enjoy using it. But as university has ended, I've just not really been that inspired to shoot. Like, I would love to go out and shoot with people, but I just don't know what I would do. I did do a call out on my Instagram earlier this month to see if people would like to shoot for the rest of the month, but you know, quite early into the month I did start a new job and my time has been filled up with that. So on my free days, I've pretty much just been relaxing, playing the new Destiny DLC and also the new Elden Ring DLC, so I haven't really done much. But I am hoping to use this camera a lot more in the future, as I really like it and I'd really like to make some more videos about it. I would also really like to pick up a 0.95 lens, as they just seem like so much fun. But for now, that is the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Also, PS, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers. I will do a video specifically about that soon. It won't be like a normal Wednesday upload. It will just be in the week hit somewhere. I don't really know where. But anyway, goodbye.